Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round 6 of the Define I Racing series, where today we're racing on the streets of Melbourne. My name is Olaf, aka Wops, and I'll be your commentator for tonight. Tonight's schedule looks as follows. We have a one-shot qualifying right at the start, followed with a sprint race, which only lasts a few laps, and after that we have the big points in the long race, which will be a 50% race. Now, for today, we have quite a spectacle ahead of us, as the Melbourne circuit this year has been changed from previous seasons. We have a different approach for some drivers, as the chicane and some of the slower parts of the second sector have been reworked into a very long straight. This means that some drivers will be opting for less aerodynamics around the circuit to increase the top speed. As you can see, it is currently raining on the track, which will make qualifying even more interesting. The drivers will have to navigate a wet track in this qualifying, as they're now setting up their cars and setting up everything to make sure that they have the most optimal grip and also fit the wet tires, which is also a very important part of wet qualifying. As they usually say in wet racing, is that the skill of the driver comes ahead more. As this league is in equal machinery, this will be even better. For now, we're looking at the one-shot qualifying. As it starts off, we have the Alfa Romeos pretty far ahead currently, as they are also in the standings. Currently first is McLaren, second is Alfa Romeo, very close. Currently looking at Sparrow here, just falling down the order. So we have a first retirement, which is a Red Bull. One of the Alpines currently leading the pack in this qualifying. The Alpine is a reserve. Alpine has both drivers on reserve. One is on the top of the grid and the other one is currently in 10th. The Alfa Romeo drivers are sticking ahead a little bit. McLaren just a little bit below. The current championship leader Kaká is 5th, just jumped up to 4th, and now back to 3rd. As you can see now, the drivers with very low aerodynamic force have reached a little bit more top speed on that long straight. The wet really shows the fastest drivers around here, as Arkid goes onto the grass for just a tiny bit, but holds on. Actually gets overtaken by the Aston Martin of Kvalin, who takes pole position around this circuit. Arkid within 300th of a second. Kaká, the championship leader, in 3rd, while the McLaren drivers, who are first in the Constructors' Championship, take 7th and 11th. Well, this is sure to shake up the standings quite a bit after this race, if the McLaren drivers are not able to improve on their starting position. But there are 2 races here and more points to be scored. So, as you can see here, 0.028 seconds is the gap between first and second. Championship leader Kaká half a second behind, and the gaps between the rest they're getting quite big now in the rain. As you can see here, the full standing with 3 drivers not finishing a lap. One of them a Williams, one of them a Red Bull, one of them an AlphaTauri. And because this is an equal performance league, the car choice does not matter. So each of these drivers are driving with equal power. That does not mean that it is essentially equal, because they all have different setups and different ways of driving. So looking on to the sprint race, which looks like it's going to be dry. Which will be a delight for some of these drivers. as we saw from the standings of the qualifying. The gaps were pretty big, as you all have noticed. Half a second between the top two and P3, and later down going all the way to 4.5 seconds outside of the top 10 is quite a big gap. This will be because most drivers have probably practiced more on the dry than they have on the wet. The wet is obviously more difficult as well. So the wet qualifying doesn't always show the best performance of the drivers in the dry, as we're waiting for everyone to ready up, load their setups in, and get ready for the start, as the formation lap is a go. We have currently 10 laps on the clock for the formation lap, and I'll open up the lap data for you right there. Look at the tire choices. We can see one driver on the softs, Joby, in the Aston Martin down in P16, because the drivers are not obligated to stop in this race. They can finish it on a single compound. Now, most drivers have chosen for a medium tire, because the medium tire lasts a little bit longer than the softs, whereas Joby has opted for the soft tire, which gets a huge advantage from the start, as it's easier to get the temperatures into the tire and easier to keep the temperatures in the tire as well, and gets a massive increase in performance compared to the medium tires. But towards the end of the race, towards the final 2 or 3 laps, the soft tire might drop off a bit more, which will create this drop off, this twisted view of the pace between Joby and the rest of the grid. As we're lining up today, the focus will be on Kaká in the Alfa Romeo and the 2 McLaren drivers, as they're currently first, second, and third in the championship. First and second separated by 12 points, and second and third separated by 25 points. First and second in the Constructors' Championship, however, only separated by 6 points. So Alfa Romeo needs 6 more points than McLaren this weekend to score their place in P1, as the drivers are now settling onto the grid. Final drivers approaching. See the rears of the Mercedes there, AlphaTauri, and the Williams on the right. Green light is there. We're waiting for the red lights to go on. 4 and 5. And we're racing in Melbourne. Looks like a really good start from Kvalin, as Arkit actually pulls alongside. Is ready to drive it up the inside. Kvalin holds on, goes a bit wide, but keeps first position as there's some shuffling further up in the back. And already a yellow flag being brought out in Sector 1. As we see some battling further up behind. The Ferrari switching places. Unsure what brought out the yellow flag, but Kvalin is strong. Very strong start. Already half a second lead. Keeps first place very solidly. Kaká following in third. Already almost has an entire second behind him to the Alpine. So when the DRS hits, he'll be loose. P6. Dutchke already 1 second behind the AlphaTauri of Swanee. So he will not be getting the DRS behind. We can see some battling actually, as the Ferrari of Rain is trying to get past the McLaren. As Kvalin drops down to second place, Arkit has overtaken, but Kvalin doesn't give up that easy. He's trying to see if he can get a pass back, and Arkit is clear. He is past Kvalin. So the wet masterclass in the qualifying. Currently in second place, using all of the battery available to try and keep up, but it is no use. Behind we see Paddy going all the way down, going into the pits with front wing damage. As you can see, the front right end plate was off the car. We go to Joby, the driver that started on the soft tires, is now from 16th, I believe, up to 12th, which is 4-place gain, but he has dropped behind a tiny bit. Arkid actually dropping back, trying to see if I can catch it, and that's a huge spin off the track, and he lost his wing, and there's a virtual safety car put in place. As Arkid tries to rejoin the track there, is currently in 15th. And has to go back into the pits. There we see the possible race strategy is powered by AWS. And as we all know, that is not what's going to happen today. Because we already saw everyone on the mediums except for Joby is currently P11. And it looks like the safety car is ending. There's only a caution in Sector 3. Arkid having to take it very slow throughout the chicane. The chicane that's supposed to be very fast. He has to take it very slow to go back to the circuit. And he's losing places very, very fast. If we look up front, we see Kvalin being chased by Kaka, the current championship leader, trying to clear the gap a bit more between the McLaren drivers. They're currently 7th and 8th. Positions that will be receiving points will be 1st to 8th, gaining 8 to 1 point respectively. Arkid currently approaching the pits and dropping all the way to the back. The second Alfa Romeo driver, Paddy, not really getting that much. I'll take a quick look at the changes. And Joby got a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. So you can see he's gained 4 places. Kaka now overtaking Kvalin for first place. Kvalin going very wide there, actually over the limits and touching a bit of grass, which loses him quite a bit of time. You can see AP17 also 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. We see Joby actually has 6 seconds of penalty already. Kvalin now dropping behind more than a second behind Kaka, which shows that the little touch of grass there lost him a lot of grip. And now he's under attack from the Alpine behind. Using all of this power as Arkid has DNF'd. Out of the race is the Alpine. And there's a safety car. Let's see if we can look at what happened. If there's anyone off. I'm going to have to get the map up real quick. We can see what is going on. It doesn't look like there's any car stationary, but there is a safety car. So the drivers that have pitted. So Paddy has pitted and will now be joining back at the grid again. Take a quick look at the changes of position while we're neutralizing the field. As Kaka has taken 2 positions. AWH Smith 3 positions up. The big gain here, Divine Eye going 7 places up. Oranjeboom 8 places up. Joby only 3 places up. Even though he started on the soft tires, only gained 3 places. The big losers here, of course, Paddy, as he had to go into the pits to change the front wing after getting some damage. Redoubts losing 5 places, and Sparrow losing 4 places as well. Look at the tires again. So we see an Alpine going into the pits, actually. Smith going into the pits during the safety car. Will be exiting not last. He's not changing any of the wings. He's getting clear, clean softs for the restart after the safety car. Which is a very interesting choice. Crossing the line here, ending up in 10th position. So he's lost 4 positions in total, but now he's got clean soft for the rest of the race. After the safety car ends, we'll only have a few laps remaining. Currently halfway through the race. And this is what it looks like. 6-second penalty for Joby which will be applied at the end of the race, which could drop him down quite a few if the drivers behind manage to stick. Kaká now almost drag racing with the safety car, basically giving it the hurry up, saying I want to go faster, I need more temps in these tires, as he's running on the mediums. Everyone's saving up as much battery as possible under the safety car. We're waiting for everyone to bunch up at the end. You can see all the drivers driving in a line. Just waiting for the grid to bunch back up so the safety car can go back in, but I believe it's going to go for another lap. Safety car actually in this lap, so we'll go racing again for lap 6 out of 10, which means that we've had half the laps down and half the laps remaining. Already enough action on the track. Now the question is, will Kaká keep P1 or will he have to give it away to Kvalin on this restart? Kaká waiting. Not ready to drop it yet. Slowly going on the power here. And there he goes. Full throttle, full energy usage off from the starting line. Trying to gain as much of an advantage as he can on the start. We see some shuffling behind. He keeps it. The AlphaTauri of Swanee almost gaining a place. The Ferrari's behind. Actually battling as well. AlphaTauri of Swanee going next to Kvalin. Not yet enough speed to overtake. As we see some shuffling behind Divine Eye. Dropping all the way back. As he's had a little bit of a spin. Rejoining the track here. And is joined all the way at the back. As the other Mercedes of AP17 has DNF'd. Not yet seen what happened there, but it might have been a spin from the restart as well. Which is why the yellow flags came out on Sector 3. Kaká now claiming first place, keeping it after that great restart. As we see a battle down for P6 between the McLaren and the Red Bull. The Red Bull inching ahead just a tiny bit before this final section of the track. McLaren now having to defend from the other drivers behind. Smith in the Alpine, who just pitted, if you remember, for clean softs. Now has a major advantage and is looking to gain another place, as Thok in the Red Bull has some struggles, gains a snap of oversteer, and now loses the position. As Jaspers now gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings as well. Now it's Smith's task to clean up the 2 seconds ahead of him and rejoin the front the front top 5 that are all within a second. All have DRS as soon as it gets there. Jaspers now battling behind with Paddy. Paddy gaining back that position after having pitted for a clean wing. Jaspers fighting back with the Mercedes that spun on the opening lap after the safety car restart. Not able to. Divine Eye not able to get a place there. Joby actually gaining another 3-second time penalty. Bumping up to 9 seconds total, which will definitely drop him further and further back as he overtakes the Haas here, which will in the end be not of use unless he gains more time and overtakes more and more drivers. Here we can see the positions gain. Kaká still in first by just the tiniest amount. Here we can see the top 5 getting very close. And as you can see, Smith, with that stop there, with the clean softs, chasing up and actually joining in the pack. And it's now the top 6 that are all within a second. As Divine Eye gets past the Williams of Jaspers. And there's now DRS, fastest lap by Smith in the Alpine. Probably eyeing up that 5th place of Rain, who's got a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Meaning that he's gone off the track a few times too many. And it's now an obstacle for Smith. All the cars ahead of him of the Alpine are on the mediums from the start, while Smith has 3 lap old softs. Now looking to get into those point scoring positions. Alpine currently last in the Constructors' Championship with 42 points. As Kaká drops behind Kvalin. Unsure how I missed that happening. Tutski almost having contact with the AlphaTauri ahead. Touching some grass. Now that these three are... This is such a close pack. It's very difficult to keep track of. You see the Alpine of Smith behind going almost side by side now in the final two corners. Gaining the position, staying ahead after the apex, but the Ferrari still has the inside. And Smith able to carry a much more speed on the outside. And the Ferrari of Tutski gains too much oversteer at the end. A big snap, and he's now parked on the exit of the final corner. As Smith jumps up to 4th position, and Tutski has a DNF. Ferrari will not be happy with that. Currently 3rd in the standings, could have taken 2nd after today, but with this showing, might not happen after all. As we see Smith going side by side with the AlphaTauri in 3rd place. Small contact, not much happening. Joby getting another 3-second penalty, as there's a huge battle going on behind her, with 2 drivers actually getting out of shape there. Oranje Boom retiring after getting 3-second penalty as well. I'm shaking up in the back there, but gonna revert our eyes back to the top 2. As the battle gets quite close. You can see Swanee also getting out of shape and losing a few positions as well. Kaká now side by side with Kvalin in the inside of the final 4 corners. Parking it on the exit and keeping it ahead as Stock gets a 3-second time penalty as well in 7th position now. Kaká holding the inside, going defensive into the final few corners. Kvalin maybe getting a better exit. Kaká getting a little bit out of shape, but Kvalin is using all of his battery. But if you look at the steering wheel on Kaká's car, you can see that he has a lot of battery, but he outbrakes himself, and Rain gets the position there as Kaká drops back a few more. And Smith dared to go on a different strategy, dared to pit under the safety car to lose a few positions, and is now all the way up to 3rd place, net 2nd place in this final lap, as Rain has a 3-second time penalty. Smith is now eyeing up that win, but he still has Kvalin to go. Kvalin reserving for Aston Martin, being the super sub. Now defending from Rain, as Rain has a 3-second penalty, but this might actually benefit Smith a lot more. Some shuffling in the back. Seeing Red Bull of Naismith going off into the gravel trap. Smith now going past the Aston Martin. Aston Martin holding the inside there, but it's not going to be enough. But with this 3-second penalty applied, that's basically the fight for the win. As they're going through the final 2 corners of the track. Rain crossing the finish line first, but Smith getting that 1st place after the 3-second penalty is applied. So our top 3 currently Smith, Kaká, and Kvalin. Going a bit further down the standing, we have the McLaren driver Mrios claiming 6th place, getting a little bit more points for the team. As we see Sparrow in the final points position, and Mihu narrowly missing out on the points. Joby, the driver with the daring strategy, but with a lot of penalties, unable to score any points with his strategy today. Naismith, after losing his front wing in an accident. Here we have the final drivers crossing the line. As my Steam has just given me my first achievement for spectating an online race. Thank you, Divine Eye Racing, for making all of this possible. Driver of the day, Smith, for sure. For sure. I would definitely agree with that. Daring to go into the pits, or under the safety car, to lose a few positions, but making it all up at the end. All because of the penalty of Rain, dropping from 1st to 4th position. As you see the point scoring now. Smith getting 8 points, Kaká gaining 7 points and extending his lead over Mrios, who has currently 12 points less, but with this disparity, it will be 16 points less in the standings. So, Mrios has to finish a few positions ahead on the final race to make sure that he gets first place in the drivers' standings. Alfa Romeo gains 4 points on McLaren in the Constructors' Championship, as well as the second drivers of both McLaren and Alfa Romeo have not scored points, which means that for the race, Alfa Romeo only has to score 2 points more than McLaren to claim first in the Constructors' Championship. Alfa Romeo currently has 3 wins and 6 podiums, while McLaren only has 1 win and 3 podiums. So Alfa Romeo have had some outstanding performances in single races, but McLaren is overall more consistent. And I'm hoping we can see this again in the drivers today from McLaren to get that consistency back up and keep first place, while Alfa Romeo will be charging down a victory after being so close in the sprint race. A short water break for me, as well as the drivers that are maybe making some final changes to their cars, as they're allowed to change the front wing and some fuel load for the race. Quick chat interaction while we're waiting. Maybe should have done this before, but how is the audio? Is everyone enjoying it so far? Is it going great? Is it sounding good? Does the game need to be louder? Does the game need to be quieter? Anything at all? I'd very much appreciate that. And also, thanks for the support so far. It's been going great. Hope you all are enjoying this spectacle as much as I am. Kaká currently has 3 wins under his belt and 4 podiums. He's looking to make that 4 wins today. Most likely. Extending his lead in the championship. It's looking like a close battle up front with only 12 points difference. But the real battles are for 3rd place, where it's only 2 points difference. Or for 6th place, where it's 63 and 62 points. Down in 8th, it's 56 and 56 points, tied between Sparrow and Joby. So Joby will be willing to sacrifice a little bit in the race, maybe. Maybe that's why he took that daring strategy to start on the softs for this race. To maybe gain a few points to get another position in the Drivers' Championship, in the Drivers' standings. Unsure if this is just taking so long because it's taking so long, or if the game is doing a little murder on me and we are actually not allowed to see the race and the race has already started. Doesn't sound like it. Alright, I just read that we have not started yet and we are waiting. We've already seen quite a few 3-second penalties being handed out during the sprint race, which was only 10 laps. Ah, there we go. Now we're on the grid for the formation lap, as it is a go. Smith being first, as he's finished first in the sprint race. Kaká being 2nd place and chasing up that win. take a quick look at the tire choices here, which are very different, very varying. We have one driver on the hard tire, all the way at the back, Arkid, with the hard tire. And then the rest of the field is a mix of softs and mediums, with more mediums at the front. But Kaká running the softs. Maybe trying to get that edge on the start. Trying to overpower Kaká. Trying to overpower Smith. Apologies. And gaining the lead at the start. And hopefully being able to keep it. Or even pull away far enough with those tires to gain a lead. Then trying out the undercut. Probably going to see the possible tire strategies pop up on the screen somewhere soon as well. But from my guess, it will be a one-stopper. Maybe from mediums to softs if the drivers are careful with their tires. But if we see Arkid on the hards, we will go hard to softs. Maybe Kaká will try soft to hards. Whereas Smith and the other medium runners, like Valen and Rain, have to opt for a medium to hard. But we'll have to see how much the tires drop off at the end of the first few laps. Here we see the first tire, the possible race strategies. Both one-stopper starting on softs to mediums and the mediums to hards, which will show that Arkid might be able to go into the softs as well if mediums to softs are possible. So we're lining up for the grid. I'm going to take an onboard shot with Kaká to see if he can get that initial run going. Some of the drivers being disqualified from the session, of course, as one does at the end of a formation lap. Everyone being put in the correct places now as the lights are going on and we're ready for the race. And it's a go. Kaká getting a very good start here at the launch on the second grid position. Even on the dirty side of the track, he's got pretty good lead as Rain and Swanee are fighting for 4th position. There's some more shuffling in the back. Redoubt's going all the way last and going off the track, having to rejoin in last place. Sparrow dropping down a few positions as well. Naismith battling with the Haas further back. Naismith, who went off the track towards the end of the race. So we'll be starting lower than what his true pace will be. Smith chasing down that first place as Oranjebaum already has a 6-second penalty for multiple warnings. Also going off the track and having to rejoin back. Naismith now within a few tenths of Sparrow in the Williams. We'll have the slipstream of the Williams and the other cars ahead, like the Alfa Romeo and the McLarens, to maybe put it alongside. It's such a fast chicane that it's very difficult to go alongside. As Joby gains a few positions, now dropping back, maybe getting a bit out of shape as they're going 3 wide currently at this turn, with the Haas going up in first, the Williams and the Ferrari a little bit of contact from what it looks like. The Williams of Jasper's coming out in first. Kaká currently setting the fastest lap on the softs, wishing that the gap behind was a little bit bigger, as the softs will run out sooner than later, and wanting Smith out of the DRS so he can gain full control. If you look at the batteries, we see that Kaká is around 70%, while Smith is around halfway. So that means that Smith is pushing quite hard to stay within the 1 second range, as Valen is also eyeing up that podium, second podium step, as they are on the same tires. Oranjebaum now retiring from the session, falling back down, as we can see him slowing down on the starting grid. If you look on the minimap in the bottom right, Smith now behind Kaká, more than a second. No, won't not have DRS. Valen almost outside of the second as well, trying to stay behind. If we look at his ERS, we can see that he's almost depleted as well. And Smith also pushing very hard. While Kaká now has pushed a little bit further. Arkid gains a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Now fighting with Joby in the back, gaining a position there. Shuffling a little bit between these 3 drivers. Kaká setting an even faster lap. So we see the race strategies for the third time today. Thank you, AWS. As DRS is enabled, while the top 3 are all outside of DRS. But we have one driver here, Rain, being within the second of Kvalen there, trying to challenge for a podium position. A reserve driver for Ferrari. Ferrari, who has scored 1 win and 2 podiums so far. Rain is trying to make it number 3. Go further back down the grid. You see Paddy chasing Thok on this straight with DRS, while Thok in the Red Bull does not have DRS. We see the overspeed of the Alfa Romeo. Thok still holds the inside towards the chicane, keeps it in front, and actually holds the position going into the final sector of the track. There's another chance here at this big braking zone, but Paddy decides not to do it. As there's a overtake happening, a few things happening actually. Paddy does take the position off of Thok. Maybe Thok has had a little moment. We've seen Rios in the McLaren, lead McLaren, now needing to make several steps up to claim, to keep that first position in the Drivers' Championship. Some glitching around. Might be connection issues for Thok there. They have to be very careful with this as well. As Alfa Romeo have a strong showing, and Naismith making a mistake, and DNFing. Now there's a safety car that's just left the pits. Unsure what happened there, but maybe we can see Smith here on the side. There he is. Looks like he's had a snap of oversteer where he lost control of the car. And one driver that will not enjoy the safety car is Kaká up in front. He's getting a comfortable 2-second lead and now has to give every single inch of that up because of an incident further behind. If we look at the tires, we see that these softs are 3 laps old. We see Arkid with the hards actually gaining a lot of positions with the Alpine. And Divine Eye now exiting the pits on new hards, which is basically a free pit stop as he was already pretty far behind on the grid. So that's a massive strategy choice here. And maybe looking to get a 1-stop off here. Finishing on these hards, which will be a Herculean task. Kaká deciding to go into the pits. Smith staying out. So Kaká is going to change from the softs, most likely onto new hards or mediums if he's feeling risky. And giving up the lead to Smith, who has just won the sprint race. See some more things happening. Mihu also in the pit. Thok as well in the pits. Kaká not yet out of the safety, out of the pits, and just exits ahead of Sparrow in 7th place with new mediums. Thok and Mira both opting for the hards, drivers behind. I have to wait and see what happens there. New mediums for Arkid, new mediums for Joby, hards for Redoubts, and Divine Eye, of course, who already pitted the previous lap. So a few drivers opting for a quick pit stop. Kaká now ahead of some drivers that have not stopped, while he has stopped. So you can see that the pit stop under the safety car is a massive advantage compared to a normal pit stop. If we look at the positions change, Tutski has gained 9 positions. Paddy gained 6 positions. A massive jump for the Alfa Romeo driver, who is trying to claim first place in the Constructors' Championship, which is a monumental point here, as the McLaren drivers are currently 6th and 13th. Mihu out of the points after having stopped for those new hards. The field is now bunching up. And the drivers with used softs will maybe have a small advantage over the used mediums, as 4 laps is not enough to drain the softs yet. But the drivers on the hard tires will have a very difficult time getting off the line, as it's very, very difficult to gain temperature in these tires. We see actually Thok going back into the pits. Unsure why. He has just gone out of the pits with new hards and now changing his front wing, going onto new mediums from the hards. Did he have a little bit of a touch or a slide? Or did he forget to change his wing on the first pit stop? Unsure, we'll have to ask that later on. He's gone out of the pits with new mediums. Joining back on the final spot of the driver still going in 18th. Very, very curious to see what's going on there. As he had a pretty good going with that pit stop there. It was within the top 10. Now dropping back to last. So we're waiting for the safety car to end. He's got on board with the top 3. We have Smith, fully charged his battery. Kvalin, fully charged battery. Rain, fully charged battery. All of them ready to go, as the safety car will be in this lap. Gap now being built between Smith and the safety car. Weaving for these medium tires to gain that temperature and keep the temperature. Waiting for the flag to drop. Smith will want to gain a very good exit out of this. Kaka now with more brand new tires behind. Smith actually dropping the hammer quite early, it looks like. He's going with quite a high speed through this final corner and onto the start-finish straight, using all of his ERS to stay ahead of Kvalin, which just so happens to work. Now keeps first position. Some shuffling down at the back. Dutchke gaining a position on the Williams as Sparrow now drops back a few. Mihu and Brass also getting past. Joby back in 14th, losing a position to Arkid. Not much shuffling at the front, however, as Smith gains the lead, keeps it, as Brass slams it into the wall. Left some debris on the track, where drivers most likely have driven over. And it's another safety car after the crash in Sector 1. And the race has been neutralized once more. Smith has held off Kvalin for a tiny bit more. Both drivers are reserve drivers. The top 3 actually is filled with reserve drivers. The 4th position as well. Kaka might be very happy with this, as he has taken some positions back and is currently 6th place, rejoined right behind his teammate Paddy. Kvalin now drops back. What happened there? Going off the track, rejoining very slowly there, almost stationary, as a lot of drivers are going back into the pits. Kvalin now probably getting the command to pass a few drivers. And Thok gaining a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, as he's into the pits as well. So many drivers going into the pits to change the tires. As AP17 gaining 11 places without having stopped here. Rain also not stopped, but Kaka has. And he's got 4 laps cleaner tires. And as I already thought, a lot of drivers have switched to the hards and are wanting to get this race over with those hards. One of those drivers is Smith in 7th position. Some more shuffling now at the back. Unsure what happened there. A few of them are driving very slowly. Maybe some confusing commands from race control. These drivers are bumping into each other. If we look up ahead, Smith and Arkid, 6th and 7th. Both reserving for Alpine, who's gotten last. Currently last in the constructor standings. Gaining quite a few points today already in the sprint race. Gathering even more in the feature race. With just about 20 laps to go. We're doing another lap under the safety car. While the cars are all bunching up. 3-second time penalty for Thok and Arkid currently applied. And they will not be able to serve those penalties. They will have to have that added to their final time. Which of course is a bummer as AP17 goes into the pits. Don't believe he has stopped before. He has not. As Kvallen retired from the session in the pits. Most curious things going on here. As we saw Naismith doing the same thing pretty early on. Unsure what's happening here. But Kvallen, who's had a very big shot at winning this race, retiring and giving that shot to one of the other contenders, like Rain, like Kaka, like Smith. The drivers that can finish the race like this are everyone but Rain and Murios. Murios still having to stop. Drivers that are most likely finishing this race on a one-stopper with these tires are Mihu and everyone else of the hard runners. AP17 going for the softs. Maybe picking up a few positions here. And finishing off on some mediums at the end could be a very good strategy. Let's see how that one plays out. Joby with some newer mediums as well as Arkid and Kaka, who have stopped in the first safety car. Trying to transfer that advantage over to the second one as well. Safety car will be in this lap, so we'll focus on Rain and Kaka as they're battling for first position. There's some more shuffling going on in the back of the field. You see the Ferraris there. Rain. A few drivers going side by side. Now, on board with Kaka, who has the rear end of that Ferrari ahead of him. Waiting to see when Rain will drop the pedal to the floor. And grab that distance. Grab the advantage. Rain going very slowly. It looks like Kaka is going into the pits. So Rain gets the free jump on the start. Kaka going for a stop, changing his tires, giving the McLaren drivers a good shot at some good points. Still remember that Rios has to stop. Rain has to stop as well. Kaka now into the pits. Way at the end. And we actually see Joby had a bit of a spin accident going back out there. Thok and Jasper's fighting a bit. Jasper's getting 6-second time penalty in total for cutting corners and multiple warnings. Joby as well. You see Miu here battling, losing some positions. Arkid going past. Smith going past as well. So the Alpines have double teamed this McLaren driver. Was just so hoping to secure first in the Constructors' Championship. And now under attack from the AlphaTauri driver behind. Not able to get it side by side here as the Alpine drivers have overtaken the other McLaren driver Muriels as well. Joby just got a 10-second time penalty for cutting corners. That must have been in the chicane somewhere. We see Muriels now dropping back and giving the position to Miu, as Swanee now gets side by side with the McLaren into turn 1. Some small contact. Muriel's getting out of shape. Paddy hitting as well. Swanee going into the wall after exiting out of turn 2. And there's a virtual safety car being placed now. After the DNF of the AlphaTauri. The McLaren drivers currently 4th and 5th And the Alfa Romeo 6th and 16th. Paddy all the way in the back. Must be very happy with the safety car so he can clean up the gap a little bit in front of him. Driver's not so happy with this. Jaspers, 6-second time penalty. Joby currently doing his best Ocon impression and getting so many time penalties. That's almost going to be impossible for him to gain a lot of positions. Except for maybe a very, very good strategy. Look at the stops here. Could be very beneficial for Rain to stop now for some new tires, or for Munoz to stop. But as you can see, they're on the mediums. They'd have to switch to either the hards, which would be really slow compared to the mediums, or go for the softs, which would not last the race, and the hards would outrun them. As we see Munoz now heading into the pits, with a few other drivers like Paddy, and Rain also into the pits as predicted. Arkid now taking the lead, with Smith right up behind. The two Alpine boys leading this race. And a quick look at the positions gained. We can see that Arkid gained 19 positions. Joby gets another 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, making this race only more difficult for him. Big gains here. Arkid with 19 positions. Tutschke with 14 positions. Down in 4th place already. Up in 4th place, I should say. And Divine Eye right behind that as well in the Mercedes. There he is. Gaining 10 positions. As we see the other Mercedes of AP17. Also with 9 positions gained. And for now, it looks like the big loser of today will be Kakar with 10 positions lost. But we are now not even halfway through the race. So there's still a lot that can happen. Drivers are bunched up quite a bit, except for Redoubts in the Haas and Joby in the Aston Martin. Wonder if the safety car will be in this lap, or if it's going to be out for another lap. As you can see, everyone has stopped so far. Thok even having 3 stops. Rain having clean hards as well as Munoz and Joby. Redoubts opting for clean softs and Paddy for clean mediums. Fresh out the box. The safety car will run for another lap, giving us a little breather and a little water break as well. As you can see, Joby has 24 seconds of penalties as Paddy goes back into the pits. Switching back to the hard tires from the softs. Realizing that the softs will not last the end of the race and now has to catch back up before the end of the lap. Otherwise, he's going to be left behind in the dust. Only has 10 seconds. Under the safety car, this should be easily doable. And also gives this opportunity to get more temperature into the tires. Redoubts and AP17 on the softs. Most likely going to stop once more. Arkid might be able to attempt at finishing the race on this compound, but it will be very difficult as the tires are already 8 laps old. Divine Eye looking like he could maybe perhaps finish this race on the compound that he's on right now, as it's 9 laps old, but it's going to be very difficult for him as well. But for drivers like Munoz and Rain, it will be a bit easier as they have cleaner tires and newer tires as well. Ready to go for this race restart. Safety car now putting some distance between itself and the Alpine drivers. Currently first Arkid and Smith, second in the Alpines, then Mihu in the McLaren, in third. Tutski fourth from all the way outside of the top 10. And Rios in 11th. Kaká Petty 12th and 15th. The focus of today, the McLaren Alfa Romeo battle. Now we're waiting for Arkid to get that start going on the mediums. We're going to go on the POV of Mihu to see if the Alpine drivers can coordinate this and drive away. As Arkid has some oversteer snaps at the exit, looks like, but he keeps the position using a bit of ERS. As we see AP17 going into the pits, but the Alpines keeping first and second position. As Mihu goes a bit wide and Tutski able to overtake and get past Mihu cleanly. As Rain also getting a position. Played a bit too much Valorant. Now getting the inside of Thok and also gaining the position there as well. Rain now with those newer tires on a charge to get that podium position. Number 3 for Ferrari. Mihu gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, which puts his 4th position in jeopardy. Rain now overtaking Sparrow in the Williams. All the way up to 5th place. Thok now also going past Sparrow, and he needs that position. There's caution in Sector 1 for Joby, down in 15th. And there's a very fast Red Bull. So we can see Mihu seem to be slowing down. Thok now almost on the inside of Rain, but sticking it behind. He's unable to get alongside. Rios dropping back a few positions. Kaká now trying to capitalize on that. Maybe from this exit. There's some more battling going on. Kaká now getting the outside, carrying more speed. Some contact on the straight, actually, between the McLaren drivers, it looked like. Mihu now planting it, almost going down on the inside. There's a send from the Haas, and they both go around. Redoubts and Mihu both go around as there's contact between the two. Petty and Kaká are both like, hello, I'll take this for free. Divine now going around the outside of Sparrow, getting a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings actually on that overtake. Might have to give it back as well. But he might just be safe there, as Marios is now eyeing up that 7th position as well, where Sparrow is so close to losing another position. A lot of time penalties on the front as well. Arkid now 3 seconds, Thok 3 seconds, Divine Eye 3 seconds. Jasper's in the back 6 seconds. Mihu and Redoubt having that spin. Jasper's gaining another 3 seconds, now has a 9-second penalty. Even though he has a 7-second gap behind, that will not be enough, sadly. Divine Eye, Sparrows, Marios, Paddy, Kaká all now in a battle very close to each other, as Thok gets another 3-second time penalty. DRS is enabled, which means this train will be following each other throughout. Sparrow getting a bad exit there, as Paddy goes alongside, gaining a position there from Marios. Kaká in the back having to spectate this and watch it out unfold as Thok goes into the wall, DNFing himself, causing a virtual safety car. With Paddy looking out after some great moves, going up to 7th place. Marios 8th, Kaká 9th. As it's looking quite grim for McLaren at this point. In 8th and 14th. With Alfa Romeo looking at a double points finish. Virtual safety car will be better than a safety car for the Alpine drivers up ahead, who have already cleared a little bit of a gap behind. So they're very happy to keep those gaps there. With the two Ferrari drivers of Tutski and Rain now 3rd and 4th. Tutski having scored 1 win and 2 podium. Mihu getting a drive-through penalty for speeding, as well as Redoubt. The two drivers that spun as the safety car goes back in. See Sparrow almost making a move on Divine Eye. But not able to make it stick, as Paddy is now looking. Sparrow having to go defensive into the final few corners. Maybe Paddy can align it on the outside. He cannot. Sparrow still going pretty defensive. Paddy sticking behind both his drivers, having DRS from the car ahead. Meals now losing position to Kaká. As Alfa Romeo looks to be the victor on this constructor battle for today. Paddy now going past Sparrow. Sparrow almost making contact with Kaká behind as well. After slowing down a bit too much, both Alfa Romeo drivers able to get past the Williams with quite a bit of ease. As the Alpine drivers up front clear more of a gap. Remember, Arkid up front on the mediums still has to stop because his tires will simply not last until the end. While Rain, Tushki and Smith might be able to finish it as Paddy gains a position on Divine Eye. Right before the chicane, Kaká also eyeing it up and the Mercedes dropping back 2 positions. The Alfa Romeo is now double teaming every driver that they get into. And there's a crash. Looks like Divine Eye is out and Sparrow also retiring from the session. We have to spectate on AP17. Maybe see what happened there as the cars are already being picked up and removed. So there will not be another safety car, luckily for these drivers, as the 2 Ferrari drivers go side by side through this corner. Turn 3, a little bit of contact. Tuchki going wide and getting a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings, and it looked like he was pushed wide a bit by his teammate there. It's not really fair play. But I assume the stewards will have to look at that. And we see a very big part of the grid getting a DNF now, as Rios is going slowly. Did he just come out of the pits? I must have missed that. Might have been the drive-thru he's been serving. Same for Redoubt. Stuchki now close to his teammate, as well as Kaká also close to his teammate, preparing for the chicane. Kaká going around the outside. It looked like there's a bit of team orders there. Kaká going, of course, for his championship lead extension over Muriels, who is currently in 9th position. Miu now overtaking Joby into turn 3. As we can see, Paddy now following Kaká and Tuchki following Rain as the 2 closest battles. They're both between teammates. Standings currently Arkid, Smith, the Alpines 1 and 2. Then Rain and Tuchki in the Ferraris 3 and 4. Kaká, Paddy in the Alfa Romeos 5 and 6. Further than that, Jasper's in the Williams in 7th. AP17, the Mercedes in 8th. The McLarens are 9th and 11th for Rios and Mia respectively. Redoubts claiming the final points position so far in the Haas, as Joby is 12th place. But these are all provisionally, as there are still some penalties to be applied to the end of the race. Rios now overtaking AP17 on the straight with DRS. The Mercedes probably using a lot of ERS, a lot of energy to stick behind. But it's no use, as Rios will get this second DRS activation as well. A big spread between all of the drivers currently on the grid. So not much action going on now. Everyone outside of a second of the next driver, as Arkid goes into the pits with his medium tires as predicted. 14 lap old medium tires. I'm going to have to take a look at what tires he's going to put on next. Soft. He's going to finish the race on the soft tires. But where will he end up? Will he be behind Paddy and Kaká? As they're now eyeing up the start-finish straight. Arkid now going out and sticking it ahead just of Kaká. And this will be a very close battle all the way up until the end, as Arkid now has the cleaner tires, looking to close that gap up front and maybe also pulling Kaká up front. Jaspers gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, going for a tire change. His hards are 14 laps old and he doesn't think he can make it to the end, so he's going for the softs. Does that mean that Tuchki, Smith and Paddy will also go into the pits? I'm unsure, but we'll have to take a look at that towards the end of the race. Kaká now still within a second. Arkid already pulling in over a second since exiting the pits to Tuchki in the Ferrari. Maybe pulling along the Alfa Romeo to also want to score a podium position. Now remember, there's still some penalties being applied at the end here. As you can see, Tushki gets a 3-second, Arkit gets a 3-second penalty. So if Kaká can stick in the DRS as he's just fallen outside of it, it looks like. And if he sticks with Arkit, he might be able to get that third position if he really gets close. But doesn't look like it. Meanwhile, up front we have Rain, second place, within 2 seconds of Smith. And as a plot twist, Kaká now gains 3 seconds time penalty for multiple warnings. Which is the last thing he'd probably want to see pop up on his dashboard. Falling back quite a bit, maybe even making a small mistake there. As Redoubt takes first in the corner between these two. AP17 almost taking that back after Redoubt. Goes a bit wide. But sticks behind. Jasper's really close behind as well. Trying to take that position as AP17 appears to be ghosted and Jasper's taking that position by driving through the Mercedes driver. Joby currently into the pits. Arkit setting the fastest lap. Currently in 4th position still, but having pulled in 5 seconds in just 2 laps. Currently gaining a lot of time, but will the softs last? Will he be able to score that podium position? Because he needs to have a 3-second gap behind him, which will be easier, as Tushki also has a 3-second penalty applied at the end. But if he still wants to get that second place, he needs to gain the 1.5 seconds to Tushki, 4 seconds to Rain, and then also another 3 seconds as Rain is catching up. Jasper's now gaining position as Redoubts and Mihu going into the pits. So used soft tires going into the pits. Arkit gaining it through another 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. As we see drivers choosing for new softs way at the back. If you look at Redoubts and Mihu. Going for new softs as Smith and Rain now battling for the win. Rain a little bit cleaner tires compared to Smith. And Arkit actually overtaking Tushki on the straight. Tushki has, looks like a back marker of Joby right behind him. This only shows that Arkit has much more speed with these soft tires. And he now has to pull a 3-second gap behind him to make sure that he claims that third position. Getting second place will be very difficult. There's almost no coming back. Mihu now looking to secure the final points position as McLaren very desperately need those points. Has a 3-second time penalty, so he'll have to pull a gap of at least 3 seconds after he's passed Redoubts. So Rain now also gets close to being inside DRS range of Smith. We're going to have to look at this battle first. Miu sending it deep into the first turn, losing a lot of speed on the exit there, not being able to overtake there. Sadly, Rain now within a second, not in DRS yet, as he was outside of DRS range when they passed the detection point, but gaining some time there on the braking on turn 3. So the fight for the win is all but over. Ferrari currently has 1 win under their belt. Rain is looking to make it 2. Has DRS on the very, very long straight here. We'll also have it after, right here, opening up the rear flap. And eyeing up that first place. Looking on the inside, not going for it. Smith doesn't feel intimidated yet. Not going too defensively. The gap is slowly going smaller. And now Rain has 2 incredibly fast zones coming up, both with DRS. Eyeing up that first place and maybe grabbing that first win. Not able to pass him into turn 1, but the second DRS zone looking, not looking enough. Smith not even having to go defensive. Staying ahead as Mihu now tries to do the same thing to Redoubt as Rain is doing to Smith. But Mihu has got a little bit more of a difficult time with that 3-second penalty applied. Now approaching a big DRS zone, maybe able to overtake. Trying to switch back to Rain as soon as they enter the zone as well. Redoubt's going slightly defensive there. Rain now trying to look around the outside. Smith going defensive. Rain going past into the chicane and claiming the race lead. Absolutely gorgeous stuff there. Getting the second DRS zone here as well to secure that lead. Only a few laps remaining. And Smith does not have the tires. Rain currently has the better tires if we look at this graph here. 4 lap cleaner tires. But Arkid has just joined the mix with his teammate there, who's got a 6-second time penalty to be applied right at the end of the race. He's pulled a big gap to Tutschke behind in 4th place, who also has a 3-second time penalty, so the podium positions seem to be cleared. But now is the question, can Arkid get into 1st and pull the gap and maybe even pull off a spectacular win like this? If he gets Smith's help, he might be able to pull it off. And I am watching the chat. Sure am. Which is making me trip over my words. So I'm not going to be looking at that so much more. Arkid having the DRS, now getting past. On the inside, almost looks like Smith let him pass. And it's so close into the chicane. The drivers are following very, very closely. As we go on board with Arkid. Rain going almost defensive. Arkid not sending it too far yet. Looking to maybe get this double DRS zone stuck under his belt. Mihu gaining 10th position off of AP17 with a small train there. Arkid not having the battery. Rain also not having battery. This will be a clean battle on DRS. Easy overtake there for Arkid. Taking 1st position, and now he has the Herculean task of driving away. Only 3 seconds as Rain gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, which puts Smith on 2nd position provisionally. With current standings actually 1st place, as Arkid doesn't have the big gap that he needs yet. So if we finish like this in 3 laps time, it'll be Smith, then Rain, and then Arkid. Do you still follow it? I sure don't. Mihu now behind Redoubts, having to go out of the way, having DRS now taking 9th position. Also has to pull a 3-second gap in order to secure that extra 1 point. Arkid getting another 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Now losing hope of getting that 1st position. Tutschke also within 10 seconds of Smith might be able to do something. As we're looking here on the top 3, if Smith can hold on for just 2 more laps, he'll be able to call himself the Australian winner. And as the Alpine drivers are both substitutes, and Rain is also a reserve driver, the first driver on the board that is scoring points for the Drivers' Championship is Tutschke, who is 2 points behind Mihu and will then take third position off the hands of the McLaren driver. Very interesting to see all of this unfold. Smith now having the task to stay behind Rain within the 3 seconds. Currently keeping it within DRS. Seems like he's got that going pretty well. Redoubts. Sticking with Mihu. Having the DRS. Sticking within the 3 seconds as Mihu is unable to get past. And the battle for the top 3 is looking to come to an end. As we are approaching the final lap, but not the final battle. As we can see Rain pushing and pushing. The job isn't very difficult. But he does want that 3 seconds behind him, between him and the Alpine behind. But unfortunately, Arkid is blocking the way. Almost impossible to get behind this Alpine. So you look out from Smith's point of view, you see this, how small the gap is between the Ferrari here and the Alpine ahead. And Rain has one shot to get past. But I don't think it's going to matter too much. As the standings are pretty much determined now by the penalties. Sadly. As Smith drops behind a second. Not within DRS anymore, but still has the DRS from the detection point. Very nicely done. As Arkid cuts a very big part of the corner there. Surprised that is not a penalty. As we see the back marker there being ghosted in the Haas. That is Redoubts in 10th position, claiming the final points. As we can see, the first driver over the finish line will be Arkid, but the driver to take the first podium position will be Smith. Arkid already celebrating, crossing the line right there, DNFing right as he hits the wall. And I don't think that counts as a point scoring position, which means that Arkid has had such a great launch there and now loses it all. Could have had second place. Could have had third place. And Tutschke gaining that for free after Arkid celebrates a bit too loudly. Rams it into the wall on the start finish straight as Smith takes the victory in Melbourne after 29 laps of strategy and thinking. From first to first. Driver of the day for today, of course, it will be Tutschke, who has gained 15 positions from the start of the race. With a one-stop strategy, finishing on 22 lap old hards, just like Smith. All of these drivers now waiting to finish, into past the line. You see Kakad, our championship leader, extending the lead. Taking 4th position as Mario's 2nd place takes 6th. Mihu in 3rd position in the championship takes 9th place, which will be promoted to 7th after the penalties have been applied, gaining some positions as well. But Tutschke, of course, the big winner here by gaining that free podium position off of Arkid, who decided to celebrate before the race was over. So, let this be a lesson for you all. Never celebrate until the standings have been finalized. Learn from Oscar Piastri, who waited a little bit longer. Here we see Smith taking 1st place, with the Ferrari drivers gaining a 2nd and 3rd place, with Rain 2nd and Tutschke on 3rd. A great race, a lot of spectacles, lots of safety cars, lots of virtual safety cars as well. Hopefully we won't have to see that too much in future races, because having the grid neutralized all the time makes for great racing, but it's boring as hell to watch. Anyway, this has been the Melbourne GP. Here are the final standings. Smith takes 1st, Rain takes 2nd, Kaká actually takes 3rd. in total, after scoring a very good points position in the sprint race, giving him 19 points. And Smith going for the full send, getting pole position, getting the win in the sprint race, getting the win in the feature race. It looks like he's also taken the point. He has not taken the point for fastest lap, actually. I think that was for our kid. Who ended up taking 2 points home this weekend. Kaká now extending his championship lead over Rios. And I believe, if we look at the points scored here, that Alfa Romeo have now taken the first spot in the Constructors' Championship. What a race. What an event. What a weekend. And with that, the event is over. And I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe, like the stream for us to get a bit more exposure out there. Share it with your friends. Clip your favorite moments and share it with everyone on the internet who's willing to watch. I have been Olaf, aka Wops Racing, and I will see you again next week.